Hi friends, Sharon from Mad Paper Crush here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I take a regular old book like from the dollar store or something like that. This is another one that I haven't done anything with yet, and turn it into this beautiful altered book junk journal that I'm planning to use when we start 2021. So we are going to do the cover and the inside pages, and I'm going to show you how I prep the rest of the book to get ready for the year. I hope that you'll join me. Let's go. Okay, let's take a look at some supplies. So I'm going to be using a book I got like at the dollar store. It is not an old book. It is a new book. It has a glued spine there for the papers that are in there. There's nothing fancy about it. I'm going to be tearing out lots of pages and covering most of them. So you have to have one of these. And this one, it has about a little over an inch spine, I think, and about 400 pages. So I'm hoping that'll give me enough to get through like the first 3 months of the year. I'm hoping. We'll see how that goes. And then I'm going to be using my cutter. I'm going to probably be using a ruler. I like to use my rotary cutter when I'm cutting fabric sometimes, so I'll probably use that for that. Possibly my pinking shears. I haven't decided if I'm going to use that yet, but you know, if I don't want the fabric to fray, I might use this to try to stop some of that from happening. Lots of glues. I think I'm probably going to be using, you know, my Beacon 3-in-1 glue, my art glitter glue, and probably glue stick for prepping some of the pages. And then I'm also going to be using some fabric. So I have a light cotton fabric that I'll be using to do the main part of the cover. And then I have something a little bit heavier. This is almost like a denim actually. And this I'm going to be using for the spine. So if you look at this other book that I've put together, you can see I have, you know, almost like an upholstery fabric for the spine, so something heavier. And then this is a lighter, you know, fabric, a lighter cotton fabric like this as well. And you can see the pinking shears that I used here for that to help some of the fraying to stop happening. So those are the two types of fabric that I'm going to be using, and then probably a variety of papers to cover the inside pages. While this blue is very nice, it doesn't go with the fabrics I've chosen, so I am going to need to end up doing some covering on here to cover that up so that it's a little bit more cohesive throughout. And then I don't think there's anything other specific things that we need. As I do the cover, I may be doing, you know, some book plate things where I might be using some brads or some, you know, a metal book plate or something like that. So, you know, you can decorate however you like. Those are just some of the ideas that I have to get going. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is cover the book. So I'm going to use my light cotton fabric first to cover the front and back parts of the cover. And then I'm going to use the denim for the spine, and I want that to go on top. So I'm going to do this first, and I just have a little piece of this here, but this will be plenty. And when I cover a book like this, I don't like to cover it all the way around. I kind of like to just cover, you know, a little bit here out. So when I look at how much fabric I'll need, I just want it to be about an inch or an inch and a half past the sides of the whole cover. So I'll need something, you know, that's about this wide and then this deep, this long. So I'll probably just start here and cut all the way across, because I think if I go like this, let's see, I think I might be able to get both sides out of one piece. Yeah, I think I can do that. So I'm going to just mark how wide I need it to be this way, so it goes about an inch and a half past the cover. And let me just grab my scissors to kind of mark that. And then we will cut that down, that out of the way, and then we can cut this down. So, or I could even tear it if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to try and keep this a little bit nicer. So I'm going to actually cut this as it's doubled over, since I'm not, you know, following a pattern or something. This doesn't have to be exact. And since I already gave myself some room in terms of going past the end of the cover, I think this will work fine. So I'm just going to try to square up the fabric on my cutting mat here as best I can. Original cuts aren't always perfect, so it may not be perfect, and that's okay. And then I'm just going to, from that line that I cut, I'm going to kind of line that up with one of the lines on my cutting mat, and then use my rotary blade to just cut this apart. And there we have it. And then probably what I'll do is just cut this in half, since we think it's going to work for me to use this one piece for both the front and the back. I'm just going to cut this in half. So it looks like that's about, what is that, 22 inches? No, 22.5 inches. So if I go to 11.25 inches, so let's see if I move this over 1/4 inch and then cut it at 11. Oop. Hopefully that'll be about right. All right, now I'm just gonna grab my book and see how I did. So this one, yep, we got room there. That's good. And then I'm assuming since that's the same size. Yep. Okay, so we got our front and backs ready to go. All right, so to cover them, then I'm going to start on the outside. And I'm going to cover not all the way into the spine. I'll probably leave about, a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch from the back of the book coming out, because that part then will be covered over with our denim for our spine. So I'm just going to use my 3-in-1 glue actually for this. So when I do fabric on books like this, I'm just going to lay down a lot of glue to the edge where I want it. And then I'm actually going to spread it out using like a credit card. I mean, you could use your finger here if you wanted to. When I'm doing sort of a big area like this, I find that using a credit card is sometimes a little bit easier, or like an old old key card or something. I don't know, I have so many things in here. I don't know what's that. Let's see what I got in here. I got all kinds of things. Oh, here's a whole old hotel key. So I'm going to just smooth this out, because sometimes when you use the 3-in-1 glue with fabric, you can end up seeing the ridges if you don't spread it out. So that's what I'm going to do here. And then I'm going to take my fabric and just line it down as even as I can on here, and then make sure I spread it out as flat as possible. I don't want any wrinkles in here. I don't think I did it very even. You can see that, but that's okay. I still have enough room, so I think we'll be all right. I don't want to lift it up now that I've kind of got it down already. And while that's drying, I'm just going to flip it over and do the same exact thing on the back side with our other piece. Now let's see if I can lay this one a little bit more even from side to side there. Okay. Now, that 3-in-1 glue, it doesn't soak through that much. It does a little bit though. So like I flipped it over while it was still wet and put it down, and it was stuck just a little bit to my mat. So you do just want to be careful of that as you're putting this on. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to kind of stand this up and let those two dry before moving on. All right, I think everything's dry. I don't have to worry about things sticking to my mat anymore. And now I'm gonna go ahead and do some wrapping and gluing for this. So I'm just gonna get out my regular scissors here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the fabric like I would for any paper if I was wrapping. So, you know, we're going to wrap it around the 3 sides, but if we don't cut some off the corner here, it's going to get a little bulky. So how I like to cut is I like to cut in at an angle on one side and cut up to about the thickness of the book away from the corner. So the thickness of my book is about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to cut in at a corner. Here, I'll actually maybe see if I can draw it for you so you can see. So I'm going to cut in at an angle like this and cut up to about 1/8 of an inch away from the corner of my book, and then I'm going to cut again out at an angle, and this will make sure that I have enough room to wrap the corner but then also wrap around the sides of the book. So that's what I'm going to do around each of the 4 corners. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut here, here, and then on the other side there and there as well. All right, we're all ready to glue again. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the tops down. So I like to start with the smaller edges and then do the long edge last. And I'm just going to do those 2 first, and then I'll walk you through how I do the corners here. So I'm just going to take a little bead of glue, and I'm going to make sure I put it right along the ridge there. And then you could either put the glue on the book or on the fabric itself. Since I can see the book better, I'll start there. I may need to put a little more on the edge. So let's see. Yeah, I'm going to need to add some glue to the edge, but I'm not spreading this one out because on the inside of the book, you're not really going to see it. So I am just going to add a little glue here since I didn't go down far enough on the book. And we'll glue that down. And I'm going to do the same thing over on this side. So now that I can see the edge of the fabric, I think I'll just add my glue right to the fabric here for this side. It's a little bit easier, I think. And I don't know if you can see, but because I didn't smooth this out, you can actually see right where the glue is there. So that's what I was talking about for the front of the book that we really didn't want. But this is going to be covered up, so I'm okay with that. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and then we're going to do the same thing on this side. All right, let's go ahead and do these ends. So this is how I do the ends. So I'm going to put a little bit of fabric in the very corner of each of these corners, and then I'm going to just kind of press the fabric down for a minute until the glue starts to hold. And that's what'll give the top of the corner or the very tip of the corner coverage. And then once they start holding a little bit, then we'll just glue this over like we did the sides here. So simple, easy peasy. And that's just how I probably was taught the first time I did it, to kind of make sure your the tips of your corners get covered. So I'm just gonna make sure that glue's in there, and then like I said, I'm just gonna hold that for a minute until they grab. And sometimes I'm a little impatient, and I might go ahead and just put the other glue on. You can see how it's kind of holding now that I pinched it a little. So I'm gonna real quickly get the other glue on here along this edge. Ooh, try not to glue my mat down. And then we'll just fold this over, just like that. And now we have a nice corner that is all covered up by fabric. And I'm gonna make sure I get the glue off of there before I do the other side. But I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. And then once again, I'm gonna let this dry because I had one of my end papers was kind of stuck to the fabric. So I'm gonna let this dry one more time before we go any further. All right, this is pretty much dry now, so we're gonna work on the spine. So I wanna use this denim fabric on the spine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, to get how much to cut out, I'm going to make sure I have the length of the book. So it's about, looks like it might be just a teeny tiny bit over 8.5 tall, 8.5 inches tall. And then for the width, I want the spine. You kind of have to take into account these the little channels here on the side of the spine. And then I want it to come out maybe, I don't know, an inch or so on here. So if I put that all together, I think they said this was a little bit over an inch. So this is like 1.25 inches. And then we'll do a 1/2 inch plus an inch. So we'll do 3 inches on each side. So 1.25 inches plus 3 inches is 4 3/4 inches. So is that right? 4 1/4 inches. Sorry. So if we do maybe 4.5 inches wide, I think that'll be enough to get us going here. All right, so I'm going to move this out of the way for the moment, and we're going to find a nice piece of this. And I do think I want to, have the design on it. So let me see, maybe I'll start at this side. So I can I'll cut off this little piece. Let me kind of fold this. I don't have too much room on here. So I'm going to cut off this and use this as my 4.5 inches. Now, because I don't always, cut straight, and sometimes I have to square things up after I start cutting, usually what I do is I cut a little bit bigger than I need to start with, and then cut down to allow for the squaring up that needs to be done. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off the edging here, and I'm probably gonna go up a little bit further than my 8.5 inches just to make sure I have enough to work with, like that. And then usually what I do is I start my squaring then by turning my fabric. So I'm just gonna turn this a little bit. So this is the height of it. I know I need about 4.5 inches. Now I have some a nice straight edge down here that I can cut from, and I'll probably cut up a little bit further than 4.5 inches, once again, to allow myself some room to straighten things up. Since I can't put my ruler, on the line on the other side, I'm just hoping that I have this pretty straight here, and we'll see once we get this piece cut off here. So I'm just going to do maybe up to the 12. give myself a little bit here. And then once again, I'm going to try to turn and cut. Now that I have two straight edges. And to hold that down. Actually, maybe I'll flip that back. Now here I probably can cut it down a little bit closer. So let's see. I want to do my 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And this still, like I said, it was 4 1/4 was my actual measurement, but I'm giving myself just a little bit of leeway to make sure I have enough to wrap around. And I think what I might do, just because, you know, I'm a little paranoid, I'm going to just go to 5 for now, and we'll see how that does for us. See what that looks like on the book itself. So, all right, this I can move out of the way. Then I'm going to pull the book back just so we can kind of get an idea of how that's going to wrap around. So you can see if I even it out here, that might be a little bit too much. So I do think I could take off another 1/2 inch or so. So that would be a 1/4 inch off of the front and the back. Yeah, I think I can do that. So I'm going to take off just another 1/2 inch. And let's see, we'll have to decide which end to take it off of. And I want to be sure, I want it to come off of this side because I really like this design here. So I think I'm just going to flip this over since I'm lefty, and I want to use this as my, because I didn't cut anything off of this edge. I don't know how, you know, it's not very square here. So I want to use this as my edge on the bottom for cutting this off. And I'm just going to line this up. And you can see how it is a little off, maybe a little not squared off. So I'm just going to try and hold this real still here and cut off this 1/2 inch here. All right, and now I'll just do one more little test here to see. I think that's much better because I want to leave some room on the front for like a book plate or something, so I don't want this to come around too much on the side, but I do like how that is coming together right there. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this down. Now, before I do that, I just wanted to mention, because I'm not, you know, pulling the whole book signature out of here, the book block out of the spine, I can't fold in any fabric over the top of the spine. So I'm going to just cut this down right to the edge or the top of the book here. Now, for this book, as an example, the color of the book was burgundy underneath there. So when I cut the fabric down, you couldn't really, you know, it kind of blended in with the whole color scheme of the fabrics and things that I had going on here. But this one, because it's a blue book and I'm using some black fabric, it's going to show, I mean, not a lot because it is kind of a darker blue, but it's going to show that this is a different color book. So depending on what color book you're doing, we're gonna make sure we cover that up a little bit in just a second. So first, let's just cut it down to make sure we have this at the right height for us to use. So I'm gonna put this right at the top of my book. And then I'm going to, once again, try and line this up so I have everything even. It doesn't look real even there. Oh, wait, let's make sure I have the right side that I want to use. And actually, I think I might go this way. No, this is the side I didn't cut off from. So I'm going to put it like this so I can kind of see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to line the fabric up on my mat first. And then I will line the book up as well, hopefully, if all goes well. Okay, and then I'm just going to take, I have like a little grease pen here. You can use anything that, you know, makes a mark. And I'm just going to make a mark on the fabric so I can see where to cut. And since I know that, you know, this was on the outside of the book, I'm going to just try and cut on the very left side of that grease pencil mark to get my height here. So I'm going to line it up as best I can, and this is the last cut, so I want to be real careful and make sure, you know, that I've got it right at the height that I want. And if you are unsure, go a little bit bigger so that you have some room to take something off instead of, you know, you having to cut an entirely new piece because you took too much off. All right, so let's see how we did. I think this looks good. Perfect. I think we got it.